I'm learning so much. It's too early. I've learned way too much already. All right, bringing up our next speaker. He's probably one of the dexiest men that I know, hands down. Wosmongton, Sunny Aggarwal.
All right. Hey, guys. My name is Wosmongton. No, I'm just joking. Or am I? But no, my name is Sunny Aggarwal. I'm one of the co-founders of Osmosis. In case you haven't heard of it yet, it's a Dex in the Cosmos ecosystem, and we are building the best DeFi Dex possible for the entire interchain. And to do this, we have a number of sort of features and things that we're building towards. And the one that I'm sort of most excited for right now, or one of the many ones, but one of them is something called Superfluid Staking, which I'd like to share with you all today. So let's walk through why do we want to do Superfluid Staking? Let's start with a story. So here we have Alice, or maybe it's the Sif chain mascot, I don't know. But Alice went ahead and received her amazing airdrop of Osmo, and now she's has to decide what does she do with it. So option one, she sees the staking pools, right? And they have a certain APR, and she's like, wow, that's some really nice APR right there. But then she notices, wait, there's also these amazing liquidity pools as well that have even higher APR. And she's going to do the rational thing and deposit her Osmo in the liquidity pools. But this has a problem, right? Because what we have here is you'll notice that on Osmosis, the staking rate is much lower than it is on many Cosmos chains. It's only 28.37%. To be honest, I don't think that's actually an issue. I think the percentage is not as important as the absolute amount, the economic value that's staked. But still, it'll be nice to raise that percent and more importantly, raise the economic value that's staked. So how would we do this? What if we had a way of making it so that she could both LP and stake at the same time? Well, isn't this what liquid staking does, or aka staking derivatives? Well, yes. What is staking derivatives? Let's see what that is first. Right? Staking derivatives is this world where Alice will go ahead and deposit her Osmo into staking pools, and she'll get back some staking derivative asset. And then you'll notice she can't actually put it in the Osmo pool just yet, right? Because that's not an Osmo, that's some staking derivative asset. But imagine we have some sort of pool for S Osmo, staked Osmo, and she can go ahead and deposit that in the pool, and now she'll be earning the rewards of both of these. But first of all, we have to go create this S Osmo pool, and we'll split our liquidity across Osmo and staking derivative Osmo. And in general, this is a little bit, I like to poke the bear a little bit, but I think that can we do something better? So why do we want to do something better? Let's figure out what's the issue with staking derivatives. So to do this, we have to go all the way back. Let's start with proof of stake 101. What is the goal of proof of stake? So, well, what would be nice, here's an ideal version of proof of stake. You have a character, Wosmongton, coming along, and they can take their Osmo and drop it into the staking pool, and they get to become a validator. Validators are very fancy. They all get top hats. And the validator can then go ahead and start making blocks, good blocks, great, but what if the validator is evil, right? They make a toxic block, right? Well, what would be nice is, the red alert should go off immediately, and, we get the validator slashed, we burn their money, and everyone's happy. But that's not how it actually works. What actually happens is how just the nature of how Tenement consensus works is we have to rewind back to this where the validator doesn't actually make a toxic block on the chain immediately. They make a toxic block on the side. They go and share that with a bunch of people and get them sick or, confuse them or, think they're on the wrong chain, steal their money or whatever. And meanwhile, the main chain is going along the whole time and no one's noticed yet. And what needs to happen is someone needs to report the evidence to the main chain, and only then do the warning signs go off and the validator gets slashed. So, but what's the issue? So what happens then if the validator, as soon as they make the toxic block, They take out their Osmo and just run away. Then we go ahead and we'll make the blocks. Someone reports the evidence, and we'll notice that, wait, there's no Osmo to burn. The Osmo is gone. So what did we do to solve this? This is actually one of Jay's biggest innovations, right? He basically invented the idea of unbonding periods. So unbonding periods basically say, let's rewind back. They've made the toxic block. They try to unbond. They're not allowed to, right? Because we have this unbonding period. And during that time, he can't get their Osmo out. He's very worried now. We start making the blocks, and the evidence comes in, and great, we get to slash the validator. Awesome, that's great. But why do staking derivatives break this now, right? Let's rewind again. So the validator goes ahead and takes their Osmo, puts it in the pool, but they get back this staking derivative, right? Now they can go ahead and start making these blocks, and they've made the toxic block, got everyone sick. But now, what if immediately what they do is they take their staking derivative. There's this S Osmo pool that we talked about. They can just go ahead and sell the Osmo immediately, take out a bunch of whatever asset, and just run away with the money, right? Now, who's left holding the this staking derivative asset? It's Alice, who was the LP in that pool. And so blocks will go on, the evidence comes in, and everything gets burned, right? But look, it's Alice, the one that was that got her money burned. And this is a terrible world. Look, we have hellfire, Alice is crying, we have sick people, staking derivative is bad. So, what is the solution? Superfluid staking. It also used to be called reverse staking derivatives, but Tarun informed me that that is the most TradFi name he's ever heard, so we had to come up with something a little bit more DeFi native. But how does it work? It says, what if we do this in the other direction, the reverse direction of normal staking derivatives? What if Alice takes her Osmo, paired with some other asset, let's say ions, drops them into the pool, and then what she gets back is an LP share. But you'll notice that this LP share has economic value to it, and more importantly, it has Osmo underlying value to it. So what if she could actually go ahead and stake the LP share itself, and the chain can be smart enough to actually know that, hey, this LP share is worth one Osmo underlying it. You could use that LP share to unbond one Osmo. And, the nice thing about this is it follows all the same rules of normal staking. If she tries to withdraw, it gets frozen, has to wait the unbonding period, and only then does she get her LP share back. So we don't break the security model of proof of stake like we do in traditional staking derivatives. And how do we value these LP shares? You just have to have a mechanism that on some regular cadence, whether it's once an hour, once a minute, you just need to be able to say how much Osmo is backing this LP share. So if a trader comes in, right now it's one Osmo, but if they make a swap and, it changes, it's fine. We can just, on some regular cadence, we can just keep on updating the value of these LP shares. So, you'll go ahead and stake an LP share. Your voting power might fluctuate as the amount of Osmo in the pool fluctuates. But as long as the chain can do this, we're all good. So some notes. One, obviously, don't use the spot price because that could be easily manipulatable. You want to use some sort of time-weighted average price. Technically, you should be using the historical time-weighted average price because if a misbehavior happened at a time in the past, you want to slash the amount of Osmo they had staked at the historic time, not at the current time. But technical details. If you want to learn more, you can find us afterwards. What happens to the LP shares, right? Well, you have two options. One, you can either burn them, and then the liquidity gets stuck in the pool, which is cool, perma liquidity, that's great. Or you can just take the LP shares and throw them into the community pool. So, slashing and everything, burning works great. The economic value gets taken from the malicious person. And what's cool is the other side's token acts as an economic buffer. So, like I said, we're only counting the Osmo side. So even if the amount of, the big question is, what about the IL here, right? The amount of Osmo could be changing. Does that cause a security risk? It doesn't because the other side token, so in this case it was ions, it's a 50-50 pool, you can almost treat that as a 2x collateral ratio where even if the value of the Osmo, the amount of Osmo in the pool goes down, the amount of the other token will be going up. And so that, that still has economic value that can be slashed and used to secure the system. And of course, governance needs to whitelist the pools. You can't, I can't just go make Sunny Coin that I can mint infinite of and then put it in a share, and then, I immediately just go mint infinite Sunny Coin and just drain the pool of the Osmo. So, there's a little bit of permissionness here where governance has to whitelist to make sure that the counterparty token is, not a shitcoin. And what's really cool is I think that this can actually be generalized to any DeFi protocol, right? We're designing it for staking derivatives, for LP shares, because that's what Osmosis is about. But you can actually probably do this with anything, lending protocols, really anything with lockable collateral. Can you use the DeFi protocol's collateral to actually stake it? So, in collateral, in lending protocols, you have the C tokens. Maybe you can do superfluid staking with the C tokens. So why do we want to use this? So, we have these many staking protocols. I saw Vasily somewhere in the room earlier. You have things like Lido, which do liquid staking, and they're built on these protocols like Ethereum. And I think they work great for these generalized chains where, you have a generalized chain, you have a staking protocol, but Ethereum has no knowledge of the applications built on top of it. And so, something like Lido works great. But we're in a world of application-specific blockchains in Cosmos, where the blockchain knows about the applications on top of it. Our proof-of-stake protocol understands the Osmosis Dexs that's built on top of it. And so we can actually have the proof-of-stake protocol make use of those assets. And so that's why we get superfluid staking. And one more thing, though. We're talking about superfluid staking and application-specific blockchains, but we're in Cosmos, right? We're in the interchain. So what happens when we combine these two ideas? The interchain plus superfluid. We get interfluid staking. Or, we can call this superfluid V2. How does it work? So Alice, she has, her shares in the pool. It's currently worth 2 Osmo and 1 AKT. She stakes it on Osmosis, and she gets the voting power of the Osmo. But what about the AKT? We sure have a lot of AKT on Osmosis, don't we? What if there's a way to make use of that? So what if we had a way for Osmosis to, you have the Akash chain, we could let the Akash chain know over IBC and basically say, hey, by the way, you have 1 AKT superfluid staked on this chain. Why don't you let it help secure your chain as well? And then, any changes that happen, let's say there's trader, the amount of it changes, we can also just let that know over IBC as well. And we can keep that going. But then, if Alice actually turns out to be evil, and she makes a toxic block on Akash, we can go ahead and Akash can let Osmosis know over IBC, and we will slash her on Osmosis. So you're basically, getting this it's kind of like it's superfluid staking as a service, right? Where the Osmosis chain can basically say hey, all these assets that have all these chains that have their assets in the Osmosis liquidity pools, you can then, make use of this liquidity while helping it use it to secure your chains. And, it's worth noting that, this is a type of interchain staking, but it's not the only type of interchain staking, right? We have other types as well, things like shared security, where the Cosmos Hub, allows you to use atoms to help secure other chains. And, we have other chains can also be using interfluid staking. So, UMI is this upcoming lending protocol. As I mentioned, we can probably design superfluid staking for lending protocols as well. And so what's really cool is I think we're going to enter this world where the entire Cosmos ecosystem is going to have all these weird liquidity sharing or security sharing mechanisms. It's not going to be this hub and spoke architecture. It's going to be this mesh network of security and liquidity, and it's going to be amazing. So yes, thank you so much. I think I have a few minutes for questions and answers, but I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, or is that a thing? Yeah, all right. Anyone have any questions? When upgrade? So I had told people superfluid staking by end of year, but it occurs to me that it's currently November, and that is a little bit nerve-wracking. But I will say superfluid staking on we have this roadmap of things that we're working on Osmosis, but I think superfluid staking is like the #1 priority right now. What if we unstake all of them at the same time? What do you mean? Well, it would have the unbonding period, just like normal. Yeah, so you're asking what happens if everyone unstakes at the same time? I mean, it's about the same thing that would happen as if everyone unstaked. How is it different than what happens today? Yeah, but I think that already happens, right? If everyone unstakes their Osmo today, then it'll also go to 0. This is just it's basically a way of staking Osmo in a different form, right? This is instead of staking your normal Osmo, it's like, hey, it's Osmo, but in LP share form, and you're staking it. But other than that, everything else works the same. You have the same unbonding periods. You have the same slashing conditions. Otherwise, it all works the same. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yes, but what we've actually done is we're actually merging these two modules. So we are actually modifying the Cosmos SDK staking module to make use of we have a module in our chain called the lockup module, which is where the bonded LP shares go. And basically, what we're doing is we're merging these two modules. So you just do one 14-day bond, and that will start getting you liquidity rewards. And then you can just take that pointer to that bond, and you can say, hey, this is staked to this validator.
And if the other chain is for 21 days unbonding period, you will have LP for 21 days?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so keep in mind, interfluid staking, it does require buy-in from the other chains, right? We would basically have to make a client interfluid module that goes onto the Akash network chain, for example, so it can make use of this system. Wait, where? There.
Have you got very far down the thought process for the averaging function you were talking about? The price averaging function for LPs?
The time-weighted average price?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, currently we're just using the one that's used in Uniswap v2. But I know Dev has a lot of ideas on better TWAP functions that he's working on.
So you're just thinking it's time-based and not maybe volume and time?
We do have a volume-weighted average price function as well, and that's one of the things that we're improving.
I would just say be very careful with that because depending on how you do it, that can easily be manipulated.
Correct, yes. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out how to actually price the cost of manipulation, because really the price of manipulation of a time-weighted average price is the swap fee times some censorship cost, right? And so it's we have to be able to price that somehow, and that we're bound how much security we get from that. Basically, essentially what you want to do is as there's more volatility, you want to increase the, don't update the TWAP as fast, basically. Yeah. Yes, there.
Yeah. So, why do you think people won't do liquid staking on top of superfluid staking?
They very much could. Sorry. Yes. Why wouldn't people build liquid staking on top of superfluid staking? They very much could, but I think what will happen is, the goal here is to provide a more secure alternative to liquid staking while giving, let's say, 90% of the value that you get from liquid staking. And I think what will happen then is the chains will choose to incentivize the more secure system. So for example, on Osmosis, we wouldn't put liquidity rewards on the S-Osmo pools. We would only put liquidity rewards on the Osmo pools and try to nudge people towards the superfluid staking. And I imagine other chains would want to do the same thing because, from a collective perspective, they care about their own security. Yes?
If the chain is supposed to be smart enough to understand the LP share of every pool, then are we looking at a requirement for a chain upgrade for 1,000 that want to
Sorry, one more time?
So if the chain is supposed to be smart enough to understand what the LP share of an LP staker is, then are we looking at the requirement of 1,000, 10,000 pools that are going to be created, liquidity pools that are going to be created?
Yes. So we'll have. I mean, we'll have a. I would love a world when we have 1,000 to 10,000 Cosmos chains. That would be amazing. Yes, of course. Well, what we would in our chain upgrade that we're due to activate Superfluid Staking, governance can then go ahead and like you don't have to create a new pool to do this. Governance can go ahead and choose which pools. Yes. Yeah, but so basically, okay, first of all, yeah, so like in Osmosis, we have all these different types of pools right now. We would focus in on only, at least to start off with only the 50-50 Osmo X pools. And that way, the algorithm to determine the value, underlying Osmo value is very simple. You just take, the TVL of the pool, divided by 2, divided by the number of shares, and that's the number of Osmo that's underlying it. And so yes, you have to figure, we have to figure out what regularity that we update this. Part of it is that we're going to switch to some sort of epoch staking, regardless. So validator powers shouldn't be changing on a block by block basis, anyways. They should be changing on maybe once a day or once every 6 hours or something like that. So that will make the cost of like getting the doing that calculation easier because we don't do it regularly. Yes. Correct. Yeah. So we'll have to we'll build the module, the interfluid staking module, the client module, and we'll distribute it and hopefully request current chains to integrate it, and hopefully any new chain that's launching will it should hopefully become the default. So, Sebastian.
Regarding the whitelisting, who maintains the whitelist, and do other chains need to recognize each other's whitelists?
No, so the Osmo chain will choose like the whitelist for its own chain. It'll be governance on chain, and then another chain doesn't have to, this chooses like, hey, Osmo AKT is allowed, Osmo XPRT is allowed, Osmo whatever is allowed. But the other chain, the Cosmoverse chain, doesn't have to know about any of the other pools. It just has to care that like, hey, which pool number is the Osmo AKT pool. All right. I think I'm out of time. Thank you guys, and I'll be outside if or want to come find me to find questions. Thank you.